I love it. Okay, we're going to pivot now to kind of some more topical current events, just general lifestyle thing. We just crushed an hour on the Code of Silence and it flew
I
by.
don't even know. Yeah.
It flew by. That was absolutely everything I hoped it would be. And I know the audience, they're not going to be able to get enough on it. One of the things that's obviously going on in the world right now is the war over in Israel with Hamas and the terrorists. And there's two things I want to talk about this. Number one, as anyone who watched our first interview knows, you were on a very famous hostage rescue mission, and you have some experience. You have experienced direct hostage rescue experience. I understand that no one has any idea the specifics of what's going on in Gaza. I'm not asking for specifics. I don't know them. You don't know them. Outside the people there, nobody knows them. The American public seems to think that everything is a movie or a video game. Like you can just swoop in, you can just blast your way through any setting, and all the good guys live, all the bad guys die, nothing goes wrong. Can you explain to the audience the difficulty of trying to do a hostage rescue mission in a city where 1 million people hate you and a lot of them are armed to the teeth?
Yeah. Like, dude, just watch Black Hawk Down. So it's so difficult, so many things to consider, right? And it's the situation's constantly changing, even to the point where you probably get there like it did for us, you know what I mean? And you have to, that's how you train to adapt and move to those things. But things can go wrong and then they can go really, really fucking wrong. But on those missions, doesn't matter how wrong they go, it's almost to the death in that case. There's no pulling back really from those. So yeah, that's the sort of well, that one that I did, I don't think was like super famous or anything, but it was one. It wasn't like a what you said, like the general public's like whatever levels and spectrums. It doesn't matter. It's the same point. It's hard, man. There's so much that goes into it, and it's constant training for that. Like night, like if we're local, you're not just you don't they say like, oh hey, there's not much going on in the world for hostage rescue and we're local, so everyone gets to just go lay in a hammock. Like, no, you're in the kill house all day and morning, and constantly. So there is a lot to it, but I think to that point, that's one of my personal opinions about the sort of I love movies, but like the detriment of holding so much weight and truth in Hollywood, which is just for entertainment, um, is there's a little bit of that's where this comes from, is like all of our imaginations now are sort of, because we in America, like Hollywood seems like everything to some people, and the opinions of those of Hollywood and the money of Hollywood and the connection to our government people and politicians and all this stuff is like it's to me it's like it's just too much, because Hollywood's just for entertainment, right? It's pretending, it's like high
Right.
level pretending, and like I love a lot of stuff and in Hollywood and movies and things, but like it's developed into this sort of kind of monster where like all of our imaginations have now gone like into some movie or something. When I think about the hostage rescue or any other thing, is like my mind goes to images that I saw for entertainment as opposed to my own thoughts, right? And and experiences in order to sort of create my own imagination or thoughts about something like that, right?
Do
Video
you
game.
do you think it's even possible? Like, is it even I know they're trading hostages as is, but realistically, do we even the United States of America have the means to go into a city with hundreds of miles of tunnels, 1 million people, and try to hit 20 different targets at the same time and rescue? I mean, that to me seems is about as close to as impossible as it might get.
Dude, I don't know. I haven't been keeping up, to be honest with you. I've been keeping up with, like, I look at 1440 Digest as my news. I'm trying so hard to not, you know, it's like make my posts for my things, scroll a little bit, get off, and do that twice a day or something. So a lot of people are getting their information from like straight up social media stuff, which is all propaganda.
Terrible.
Like not even, and that's even worse than getting it from other people's opinions on TV from news supposed news people, but there are still some, like, there's still newspapers, and there's still, this 11440 digest is like, there's no opinion allowed in it. Okay. It's an email. You get an email every couple days and it goes through. So like, that's how I've been keeping up with it and sort of skimming over it. So I don't know the intricate details of the hostage stuff that was going on. I just know both sides had some, mostly women and children. But to answer the question is like, my opinion is yes, our military is the most amazing military in the world, right? And so it's the best one that's ever existed. And
Right.
Minus public opinion, which is valid in these different wars and conflicts we go through, the full force, if ever applied by our military, it's the greatest like military that's ever existed in civilization. It just is. We're so good at it. We've developed it so much, right? And so it's still good that we are American. We have honor and virtue and values here, right? Because if we weren't that, we could abuse it and misuse it, right? But yeah, the full force of our military could do that. It's really hard. It would be really hard work, right? And we've done impossible things all the over and over again, So yeah.
So the second point I want to make about this is broader. It's been all over the news. I don't know if you saw it. I know we talked about it, but the amount of young people who are supporting Osama bin Laden and the amount of young people in America who seem to think like the terrorist, like they're the ones making a lot of really good points. It's the US that doesn't understand. You're a combat veteran. You've killed in combat. I have no doubt you know people who died or seriously wounded. When you see young Americans, where did we go wrong that they think Osama bin Laden, he was right and the U.S. was wrong on 9/11? What happened?
I think it's just the result of generational propaganda at this point, right? It's the same thing that's happened in Palestine. Like all those people are now generationally believe that people in Israel are the enemy. They don't even, maybe I don't know if they even perceive that they are actually under this like rule of oppression, like the Taliban rules of Afghanistan, right? And so here it's the same, not the same, but it's my opinion is just it's a result of being too loose with our boundaries on how much propaganda for stuff gets infused into schools and universities and organizations and companies and things. And so I don't know the answer to that. I don't know the solution. I have some ideas of the solution, but I haven't, need, it would take as much time as it's taken to get to this point to go back to that. Right. And so, but that's what, on the bright side, there are so many awesome organizations and people and things, working together to counter that balance and to come back to, and it's an individual thing too. You can't be affected by propaganda if you are clear within yourself, right? If you don't understand your own purpose as a person, right? Like a lot of these young people do. They're running around. I was young and I didn't know my purpose when I was 19 years old. I was rebellious. I was a fucking difficult teenager, like I skateboarded around Cannery Row in Monterey, like scamming tourists for cash to go like to the candy store and just like get a stash of candy, right? And pretend like I was doing a science project. And then as soon as I made $100, I would close it all up and then go, and we weren't doing a science project. But, my point is that like it's purpose. And so with so many people now, I think we've just reached a tipping point of young people that don't understand because they're going through it in their lives. That's what your teenage years and your 20s and all that stuff's for, is to find what your purpose is. And so like the guidance to that is gone askew, is gone awry. And so now they're attaching to these things. They're like, oh, my friends we're going to pull down a statue. We're going to whatever, like we're going to go do Hamas flags in New York or whatever. And you're like, they don't know what it means. Like they don't know the depth underneath in the history of all these things. So we have to just go back to going like, hey guys, like young people, look into the history of this, actually go into it without just reacting so quickly with anger. You don't feel good or whatever. Yeah, I think that's just all part of it.
Well, and part of it probably boils down to also parenting, right? Like you talk
Yeah.
about schools, you have 2 children. I'm assuming you don't let your kids just get their brain infected by whatever is floating around. Like,
So
how
hard.
difficult is that to make sure your 2 sons aren't subjected to insanity like that?
So hard. We have to work on it every day. We go like, oh, okay, we'll let them get on their devices a little bit more. They've been good, and then a week later, they're angry and attitudes and not forgetting their chores. And you're like, okay, we got to go back to guys. We can only do it for an hour, on Fridays and Saturday or whatever. It's just, and that's parenting. It takes effort and energy. And when you're a parent and you're distracted with your own stuff, right, then you don't have the bandwidth to do that. And so yeah, it's just a societal kind of problem going on a little bit.
I couldn't agree more. I personally found that stuff to be disgusting. I hope your assessment that it's really ignorance and they're not educated and they just
I
don't
think
know
it is.
history is correct, because the other option is the people with the Hamas flags fully understand what they're doing. And that is way scarier than just
Yeah, that would
ignorance.
be, I think. Yeah, but I
That'd
don't
be,
think this does not, I don't think it's that,
well, I hope you're right.